Hi, I'm Brian Lamort. I'm a Mitsubishi heat pump install specialist. In this video, I'm going to be talking about things that you can do yourself as a homeowner to try to solve problems if your heat pump isn't doing what you think it should be doing. I'm going to be making more videos like this in the future, so if you'd like updates, like and subscribe, and I'm going to have a lot more content like this coming out in the future. I'll get right into it. First thing, a lot of people have multi-zone heat pumps. What that means is you have one compressor outside and multiple indoor units. High wall, low wall, air handlers, doesn't really matter. They're all connected to a multiple unit. They will not function properly if they're not all in the same mode. So I recommend you never put them in automatic mode because it's possible one unit may switch to AC automatically and another one's in heat, and if that happens, it'll malfunction. So if for some reason the room you're in isn't heating or cooling, the first thing I would do is go around to the other units, turn them off and then back on and make sure they are in the same mode. The second thing that could happen, and this is kind of caused by user error, is it's possible that the timer function is overriding what you just had it at. It's possible somebody else messed with the timer. It's possible you made a mistake when you set it up. My foreman put one in his house some years ago, and he woke up freezing cold every Saturday morning because one of his kids fiddled with the timer and it was turning the unit off every Friday night. If you suspect that something like that's possibly happening, if you slide the cover down on the remote control, you can hit the reset button. And when you point it at it, hear it beep, and hit the reset, it returns the controller to all of its normal default settings, clears all the timer settings. So I would rule that out before paying somebody to come out and figure out why your unit's not working right. One thing that can happen is people can turn the unit off at night because they want to try to save money. And what will happen is your house will get cold, and then when you turn it back on in the morning, it takes a while to warm back up. And sometimes the house gets cold, and then they're like, well, I'm cold. And I tell them, don't turn it off. It uses so much more power to make up the temperature difference than if you had just left it. Maybe turn it down a few degrees at night just to be comfortable. So my best advice is don't turn units on and off frequently. Just turn them down. If you turn them down, it doesn't get freezing cold and it doesn't use nearly as much energy to bring it back up to a more comfortable temperature, and that'll work just great. Probably one of the most common problems I get, and I had this happen twice yesterday, is people will call me and say, hey, all of a sudden my units aren't heating at all. They were working great yesterday, now they're not. Well, if you have a brownout, if you have a power dip, the compressor will lock itself out to save itself from having an electrical problem that'll make it fail. But what'll happen is the unit will seem to stay on. So you'll have one or two green lights on the unit and it'll blow, but it's just blowing room temperature air because the compressor's not running. This is something you can actually fix yourself pretty easy. You can go to the breaker panel or you can go to the disconnect switch outside by the compressor and turn it off. Wait 5 minutes. Turn it back on. Double check that the units are all in heat or cool the way you want it, and what you're going to find is all of a sudden it's blowing warm again. You fixed it. That's a temporary problem with an error code that you can simply reset. I'm going to do another video in a little while more about that and what you can do to mitigate it. Another thing that can happen if the unit doesn't seem to be putting out very well, and it may be slowly getting worse and worse over time. Well, it's possible that it's dirty and it's not breathing well. If it's really dirty or greasy, clogged, the fan scoops just kind of plug up and it just doesn't push air that well anymore. And you can actually figure out if it's doing that by turning the unit off, aim the unit at it, hit the off button until all the green lights go out. Then you can peek up inside the bottom with a flashlight and you can see the barrel fan. It's a long cylindrical fan with a bunch of skinny little scoops. Look at it with a flashlight. If they just look a little bit dusty, it's probably okay. If it looks like it's caked up and plugged, You're not going to fix that yourself, and it's not going to work very well. You need a professional cleaning. When I do a cleaning like that, I pull the whole unit apart. I pull the coil out. I slide the entire fan out of the unit, take it outside, and clean it with a sprayer, and then put it back in. I do not recommend you attempt to do that yourself. It took me a while to get good at it, and I've done it a lot of times now. You're going to want to clean your filters kind of frequently. They mostly just tend to get dusty under normal circumstances, but you don't want to forget about it for years, and that you don't have to clean it every few weeks. What I recommend you do is you lift up the front cover and just take a peek at the filters every now and then. And if you see a thin haze of like brownish dust on it, it's a little bit dirty, and that's a good time to clean it. You don't want to wait till it's caked up and it looks filthy, because it's probably getting dirtier on the inside when that happens. Another thing that can tend to happen is people will take a look at the unit where the air comes out and they start to see these little black spots. And their initial reaction is that it kind of looks like black mold, and they get freaked out. And I can assure you, especially in your bedroom, your living room, it's not mold. What it is a little speck of dust gets stuck to the side of the plastic. And over time, other little bits of dust kind of coagulate around that one little speck. And you end up with a bunch of little black spots that kind of look like mold, but it's actually just dust and the way that dust tends to collect. I had to see it several times myself, and I thought it was mold myself the first couple times I saw it. But now if somebody calls me up and they're afraid their unit's moldy, I can pretty much tell them, like, it's not mold. I've never seen a unit actually get moldy this whole time. It's just the way dust tends to accumulate, and that's what it looks like, and it's pretty normal. When you do need to clean the main filters, they're the big blue screens, you lift it up, slide them out. A lot of the models have what I call a little bonus filter in it, small rectangular one this big. It may be blue or black. You're going to want to snap that out of the big blue filter, set it to side, because you just don't want to get it wet. They don't really need to be cleaned that much. They're also not important for the integral function of the unit. If you lose them or don't put them back in, it's going to work fine. The blue one is for allergens and the black one is for odors, but it's really a small bonus filter. You could take your blue filters and you could just clean them in the shower or the sink. Just spray them off with water. You don't have to scrub them with a brush. You don't have to clean them with soap or anything fancy. Just rinse them until they look blue and let them maybe dry for a few minutes. I don't really care if you put them back a little bit damp. It's not going to hurt anything. In the air conditioning mode, water drips off of that inside coil down into the condensate tray anyway, so a little bit of moisture in there is nothing abnormal. What you're not going to want to do is like take a spray cleaner or Lysol or any kind of a chemical and spray it up into the unit. Don't do that. There are some special coil cleaners you can use, but if the thing's getting really gross and stinky, it's not so much that you need to clean it as there might be something wrong. I've found some houses have too much humidity in the house because the house is really tight, the house can't breathe, and those units can't dehumidify well enough, and they might start to get a little stinky, but the unit itself isn't the problem. They need more fresh air in their house, and that's a topic for another discussion. One thing I've noticed that tends to make a unit need a professional cleaning is if it's in a kitchen or near one and they don't have a good exhaust fan and they cook frequently, you get a lot of grease floating around in the air. And grease will pass through that little blue filter a little bit and create a sticky layer on the inside of the unit, on the coil, and on the fans. And then the normal house dust, which doesn't really tend to accumulate that much, begins to stick to everything, and it'll really clog it up bad. And if that happens, the unit will not seem to put out good heat or cool because it can't actually push the air, and it's wasting energy. So if you take a close look up inside the unit with a flashlight and it looks greasy, sticky, really dirty, probably only your kitchen unit it'll ever happen to. You might need a professional cleaning, and somebody like me will get up in there with a sprayer, take it all apart, and give it a really good once over and clean it all out. And you might need that once a year. I almost guarantee you do not need that in your living room, your bedroom units, other rooms. It's really only the kitchen where there's a lot of grease, where they get that level of dirty. So that's what I got today for troubleshooting units. Like and subscribe for more. Have a great day.